Talk. Light Talk. Lumen Brothers. Light Talk.
Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Wednesday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Ellen, hard at work on the tropical island of St. Bart's, and you are listening to Light Talk.
And this is Dennis coming to you from the beautiful North Shore of Long Island, and you've tuned in to Light Talk with the Lumen Brothers.
And Sister.
Oh, that's right, Ellen. Welcome, everyone, to episode 487. Grab a pint o' Guinness, perhaps some chips or bar nuts. Sit back and enjoy our conversation, because today we welcome internationally renowned lighting designer Tom Kenny to the big broadcast. Ellen, tell us a little bit about Tom, please.
I'd be happy to. He is one of the most sought-after stage and television lighting designers on the planet. With a career spanning 4 decades, he has created lighting for an extraordinary roster of artists and organizations, including David Bowie, The Who, Page and Plant, Eric Clapton, Elton John, U2, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr, Shakira, Coldplay, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, BTS, Dua Lipa, Olivia Rodrigo, Bruce Springsteen, Ed Sheeran, Madonna, Michael Bublé, and who else is there? Oh, many more. His television and broadcast credits include Channel 4, RTE, Bravo, VH1, Sony, Madison Square Garden, CNN, Sundance Channel, ESPN, NHL, Univision, CMT, BBC, Nickelodeon, and NBC, MTV Unplugged, MTV Video Awards, Kids' Choice Awards, Kids' Sports Awards, VH1 Storytellers, Spectacle, Live by Request, Live from the Kennedy Center, Concerts at the Met, TCT Concert Series, VH1 Divas, Hip Hop Honors, the CMT Music Awards, iHeartRadio Music Festivals, and the Latin Grammys. Among his landmark productions are the 1993 Eurovision Song Contest, viewed by more than 120 million people, the Beijing Sports Awards, broadcast to an audience exceeding 1 billion, the Obama Inaugural Youth Ball, the National Christmas Tree Lighting at the White House, the Who's Super Bowl halftime show as creative consultant, and many more. His schedule this year includes the Critics' Choice Awards in Los Angeles, the NHL Stadium Series in Tampa, Univision's Premio Lo Nuestro in Miami, the Anime Awards in Tokyo, 2 feature films, the Peabody Awards, ongoing work with The Who, and multiple confidential international productions. I want to hear all about those, and welcome to Light Talk.
God, hello. Hello,
Oh,
guys.
my God.
How do you have time to even breathe?
No, I was thinking Dennis is probably thinking of all the invoices that he could have got from that. And all the paperwork. Unfortunately, I'm very, very fortunate to be married to a very smart lady who looks after all that stuff, which most of us, I don't know, are not very good at. I don't know about you guys. Probably Ellen is probably the smartest of us all. I don't know. But no. But anyway, we're very fortunate to work in everything. All of us have done great stuff in our lives, you know.
Absolutely.
So we're here.
Sometimes the paperwork does get to you.
Yeah. In everything, you know. And but yeah,
But despite that list of credits that Ellen read off, we actually had to cut it down from the original 10 pages of credits
Right.
that we had.
yeah.
And we don't broadcast video, only audio, but if people could see, you're still just a youngster, Tom,
Right.
I am, yeah.
compared to the boomer Lumen Brothers and Sisters.
Yeah.
Let's face it, you started out in show business when you were, 13, 12,
yeah,
14?
Yeah.
Something like that?
I was very fortunate. My family are all musicians, like folk, traditional musicians. And my dad and they couldn't get me to be disciplined enough to learn musical instruments. And at the time, I had the top guys in Ireland trying to teach me fiddle or this or the pipes or anything like that. And I just wasn't interested. And then one day I went to sort of competition, talent competition, and the guy was pushing around a box. He says, "Hey, you doing anything? Help me." And I was about 13 or 14, and I just loved it. And then the following week, he says, "Hey, you up to it again?" And about 4 or 5 times this happened. And then it was the summer of whatever it was, 1980 or 79 or something like that. And my mother said, "Some guy called John called for you." I'm like, weird getting a call from an adult who actually was only 24 at the time. But he says, "Tom, I got this little band called U2 and they're about to do some bigger shows. Can you help me a bit?" So
Hold 1 second. This would have been what, about 1980 maybe?
1979, 80.
Okay, all right.
And so I just started, in that, and I was working in all sorts of stuff. And it just, because I don't know, you all guys are Americans and you grew up here, and obviously you grew up in the city, but I grew up in a little island country of Ireland, which has like, theater, great film, great drama, great, everything going on, shows, fashion shows. And to make any money, I just said yes to everything and just did everything. And because it was a small country, they'd go, "Hey, listen, you're doing this next week." It was a different world, So by the time I was 19 or 20, I'd done everything. I worked with loads of people, but still was only 19 or 20. So
Did you like drop out of school or something?
no,
Did
well, in my mind, I remember once, it's funny, 1980, I just read it the other day, the Police, they were on one of their biggest ever tours, and I just happened to be working on the stage crew and helping out. And they did this huge show in the Guinness residency in Ireland. And everybody from the school went to it. And I wasn't in school the next day, obviously, because I was taking all the stuff down. And I went to a sort of a strict, but it was a great arts school, which was run by the Christian Brothers, who were pretty tough guys. And the main guy goes, "Hey, who went to that show last night?" to sort of give him a bit of grief. And everybody sort of put their hands up and said, one girl puts her hand up, "But I know somebody who worked on it." And when I came into school a couple of days later, he said, "Now I know why you're always missing." So he gave me, I was allowed, I could get away with it. You know what I mean? So I was fortunate. And it was a very small country, Ireland, as well. Like, not what it's like today in the sense of, but you were allowed, I think, the fact that people said, "Hey, come on, help me here, help me there." You don't get that. Well, today you don't get it as much. I think when we were growing up, you might have, "Hey, I need some help. You're only getting a t-shirt, or need some."
Right, right.
I see some of the people today, we only get a t-shirt or they take our t-shirt, but or we owe them a t-shirt. But yeah, I was lucky, Dennis. I was lucky that I started there, and then I was told by 3 people, "You've got to move away." And I just, my girlfriend at the time wanted to move to London. So I went to London. I started all over again. So
So you didn't really have any formal training.
no,
Like in this
no,
country, you
no,
get a BFA or an MFA, and you're
no.
working in college. You went to the College of Hard Knocks, as
Yeah,
it
yeah,
were.
yeah. Apprenticeship, I suppose, in the sense of mentorship. And I worked for it. We all know everybody's different. Lighting designers are different. I had this one guy who was a really top theater guy, unfortunately not with us anymore, and he did every amazing theater show in Ireland and London, and he was the original guy who did Riverdance. And when I was leaving, I said to him, "Hey, can you give me a letter?" And he says, "I'm not giving you a letter." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you come back and take all my work." And I'm like, that's not how it works. You're a brilliant lighting designer who does theater. He said, "No, Tom, you're going to go away and come back." But yeah,
And you did.
I did, and I did. But that guy, it's a different level, a different. You know what I mean? When you got that amazing theater guy before moving lights, right? Before the music business gave this great help to theater, and we learned from that, and they learned from us. It was like Dennis. I've seen you focus a lot of lights. And you know what happened? It's funny because the way life goes, about 20 years later, I'm in this massive Cleveland arena and this really big stagehand. And we had about 400 park hands on an Eric Clapton tour and a load of Verilights. And he said, "Can you go across the road and tell that guy how to focus lights?" And I'm like, "Why?" He says, "Because you've just focused park hands, all these park hands, because we had to be finished by 2. You focused them in like 30 minutes. And I said, yeah, but I've got four guys up there. And he says, no, no. And it turned out to be, it was that man, Rupert Murray, who was the famous lighting designer who did Riverdance. And he had
That's funny.
1,300 Lecos. Could you imagine in the Cleveland Opera? So whatever.
Oh,
So life goes around, doesn't it? It goes around. So yeah, that was the start.
what was it like working with you two back in those days?
They were exactly how they are today. They were the nicest guys, really tight. What they had though, they still had all they then and to this day, they still have their cool school friends and high school friends around them, which is very unusual for a band. And they were great. They were always even though they were just starting off, you could see something and it sort of catch you out. You're like, wow, there was definitely a lightning in the bottle. And that was then. And I worked with them over the years since and on different things. And their shows then were amazing, and the guy that had helped me get involved, and I just did club gigs and theater gigs and some stadium gigs as they got older and all that, and some of the big videos. But the guy eventually, who was the lightning, said, listen, you guys need to get somebody else. You know what I mean? Because I've got to the point, which is very unusual, but he was a very smart guy. And he turned out to be the production manager, but that's where Willie came in. Or there was a few people before that, but that's where Willie Williams came in 1985, who creates the world. His mind is as good as theirs.
Yeah, he's amazing, right?
He's brilliant and a great guy. Brilliant
What kind
guy.
of gear did you have for them in 79, 80?
Well, we had some Parkans and some old Fresnels. But it's funny, the old Fresnel look, which I've used and we've all used as looks over the years, we were using them as actually lighting in those days instead of using them as props, so yeah. You know what I mean? So you sort of know about a sky pan, and it was just Parkans, and like I think one of the shows there was about 12 Parkans, and that's what it is. And I wasn't the lighting guy; I was helping John, who was the lighting guy, and we also they built a set out of plumber's piping and held together with stands. It was funny those days. They always wanted to have something visual, and look at them today, like it's unbelievable. Even in those days, they wanted to be different, and I think that sort of passion has kept them all going, so whatever. But they were just always great.
I find it interesting, Tom, that you're reading the trade journals, whether it's Live Online or PLSN, and they have light plots for shows. I just happened to be looking at the light plot for the latest tour of Bad Bunny, and I think there's
beautiful,
2,600 lights.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you've done arenas, and I'm sure you've had up to 1,000 lights or
Yeah.
so on these jobs.
Yeah.
One of my favorite designs that you did, and it wasn't even in your bio, was for Celtic Women. I think it was the Believe tour years ago.
Yeah, that was great.
And I saw that at Radio City Music Hall. I'm exaggerating when I say you probably had 12 or 13 lights, and that was about it.
I think about three trusses, yeah.
It was a beautiful show.
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
beautiful show. And I think someone like yourself, who's a designer of your note, how do you arrive at the designs you create that are so beautiful, especially considering you didn't have that training or that background? You kind of worked your way up from a technician. I mean, what is your superpower that gives you this?
I think I sort of, it might be right for everybody. I think when I hear a song within the first couple of bars, I know what it's going to look like. And I've always been like that. And even if you got Parkans or something like that, you would use a blue or something. But as I got, unfortunately, technology went way past me because I was never the techie programmer. I knew how to do stuff, but the way things are nowadays. But I still, with a live desk and channels, I just was able to come up with it. And it's something like a big show like when we were in Radio City, you've got that it's just so beautiful, that room. And I think it was a program show, but like everything else, when you're in a great room like that, you have to better yourself. And I think it just comes naturally. And obviously the music and all the stuff, the things I had to learn was when to bring in a follow spot, when to black it out, all that was technical to me, But
Sure.
it just comes to my hand, and I'm also really lucky to work with the best programmers who when they know your palette and know what you like, they just go off. And rather than go from Q1 to Q300, they set it all up. They know how you look at, and if you're working with each other, as you all know, they know what you like, and it's a sort of communication between us all.
Sure.
You know,
Interestingly enough, last week on our show, we had a question from one of the audience asking about he wants to be a programmer. And the question that he asked us to answer was, what do you look for in a programmer? Now, you work with a lot of great programmers.
great guys.
Mike Appel, who I
Yeah,
work with a
brilliant,
lot, he's
yeah.
one of the best and
Yeah.
one of your guys. What do you look for in these programmers?
confidence and get the job done. You know, confidence that they, because I don't know, you look at the Grandam A3 now, right? And to get blue, you have to, it's like, you know, it's like you're calling home ET or something like that. You're trying to get the nuclear codes. And I watched them, I'm like, but they have such a fluidity, like the Felix and Mike Appel and Fuji and all the different people I work with, Tiffany and Jessica and so many great people that I work with. They know the desk and they know it's a different world now. But I think for a young person starting off, I think they have to get a job, working in a little theater, or go to a lighting company and say, hey, can I help out? It's the only way. You got to learn from the very bottom, because I find a lot of kids are learning from YouTube and things like that, which I came across recently. It's yeah, I would go to you need to be a nice person, which most of us are, and b just learn how to tell the mathematical things about programming. I think, and the only way to do it is practice.
Do you think we've lost something since you began?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all of a certain age here. It's like going in the kitchen and your grandmother is not using a cookbook. She knows a pinch here, a pinch there, a little taste of this.
Yeah.
And we're in a position now, it seems like everyone wants to look at the cookbook.
There was so many
see.
jokes there, Steve, and I can't say it. But anyway, carry on. I think what it is, though, Steve, is that the people, if you're working with someone as good as the people I work with, and there's like 20 people in the world that I work with, and they're all fabulous, their expertise in the programming, it's just getting, like, when you think of what a moving light can do, when you think of when we first started, I was fortunate because I worked for Eric Clapton and I worked for The Who, and and eventually worked for Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. They were the people who put the money and innovators and, you know, of moving lights, Shoko and all this sort of stuff. So I was the young guy around a lot of older guys who were going, who's this guy? But I got to see moving lights from the very, very beginning, like we all did. But I think what's happened now is that a lot of people come into it and they've already know how to program, but I think it's the people that can know exactly how to use every fixture or every trait of a fixture. They're the people who are the best. And some of them just want to keep on programming. Some of them, like all the people I work with, turn into be brilliant lighting designers themselves, and they just carry on. But they've got the fortune of, I never had anybody to look. I just saw stuff and was thrown in at the deep end. You know, hey, you're doing this. You know, it's like Kieran, wonderful Kieran, another great Irish guy, Kieran Healy. Do you know Kieran, Dennis?
No, I know who he is, but I've never met him.
Anyway, he's done everything, American Idol, done everything. And he was one of those guys, I remember in the 80s, he used to do these live concerts. How he got his job in lighting is The Who in Madison Square Gardens. They're all there standing around, and the lighting designer, his visa didn't come through. And they said, hey, who could do lighting? And Kieran went, you know, I've done a bit right. You're the lighting designer. You know, and it's funny, and he upped his game and became who he was and done fabulous work. But I think if you're that adventurous type person, but what I find today is a lot of people don't look up. They don't look at the stage, you know. It's all this, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And because, as you said, Steve, there's all these little things that help you to get there. But the most basic thing for me would be a single follow spot and a backlight and all this stuff that we're well known for. all the huge stuff is fantastic. It's like cooking a big Christmas cake or celebrity birthday cake. But yeah, it's a very different world now, and just keeping up with everything is different. And the fact that people get jobs from Instagram now is amazing. I've met people that have got jobs with bands because the band were on Instagram and saw their lighting and went, "Let's hire that guy." Can you
Well,
imagine?
I'm sure you're seeing it at some of your concerts. You're standing there and you're looking at the stage, and there's 1,000 people around you who have their cell phones out, and they're looking at their cell phone.
Yeah, I know. It's sad. That's why I love it when they ban those cell phones. It's because you know what I do? Because as a lighting designer, when you work on a tour, unlike other jobs we do, you've got so much time to yourself. But so one of the things I always do, I always look, let's say at the end of a Who show or Bowie at the time, or I'll go and look on YouTube, and none of them, maybe one or two of them have uploaded it. So I'm thinking, why can't you just put the phone away? I wish they would do like comedians. I wish they would say, put your phone away, or do. There's one artist says, okay, take a photograph now and then put them away and enjoy it. But that's a difficult one for us, and people don't want to enjoy it. But whatever.
Well, that's cheap advertising too,
Yeah,
cheap marketing.
it is. Yeah, it is. But it's amazing, but like what we can do now. God knows what it's in the future for lighting. Hopefully it'll all be still human beings, because I have seen machines try to do what we do, and it's just not the same. But you know, as you said, Steve, it's like having the big cookbook taken away.
I'm not in the rarefied air that you're in, but I had someone who will go nameless who is in your rarefied air, and he swears that when he looks at a stage, he can see where the human touch is and where the machine touch is.
Yeah, I tell you, what everybody loves is the opening of a song, or you know, when the song's into it, it's you're enjoying yourself. You hope what we're doing is complementing it, and it's like, speaking of Wendell and people like that, it's like that. Sometimes that one look for me is more powerful than all the lights in the world, you know, and it's a. I can see what you're saying, that human touch, but you know, there's also, who will remain nameless, some shows out there, and my friends who are programmers and designers have nearly gone up with their family. Are, okay, can you stop, please? I'm trying to enjoy myself. So it does become ridiculous, you know.
You mentioned briefly Wendell Harrington.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the craze now? I mean, you go back to the Who's Tommy and the use of projections in shows, especially when Wendell created Tommy, the look of Tommy on Broadway.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all the video work that's going on that seems to be taking over for lighting,
Yeah.
to the point that they're putting virtual lights in the dumb video walls now?
Yeah. Listen, we've all grown up with it, and just recently, I worked on a movie, which I can't really talk about, but they have a real set. They had a real set. They spent a lot of money on a real set. And then we went from that to a virtual sort of thing. And the difference for me, you know, it's so different. And I think producers and people, obviously through great salesmen, have, have all the sets have gone away, and now but we grew up with that, like in the late 80s or early 90s, maybe, with the video coming in. And eventually what's happened is it's taken away, and all of us have learned how to deal with the light levels and all that, and how to work with that for television or for in an audience. But I think there's a few people that can do the virtual thing great lighting wise, Dennis. There's Chris, who does Fish. He's worked it. They've worked it to the extension that you go, you know what? I can see this. This is great fun, right? This is great fun what you're doing. And it's actually very real what they do, Chris and Gift from Fish. And also, but I see what you mean. It's sadly, I think what's going to happen is you're going to have some people will just use that, you know what I mean? And not use a person.
Well, I think the biggest problem, you were talking about the movie, diverting from rock and roll. The movie's got a set. And a lot of times now I find myself in TV land doing lighting but they're not putting in real sets. They're putting in virtual sets,
yeah.
either on a video wall or a green screen. And then they ask me to come in and light the show. But I have to work around what was done in the virtual world. Most of the time, it is not lit well.
Yeah.
And I tell the producers, I say, look, whether you build that set in a scene shop and it comes to the studio and I light it in the studio, or you build it in the virtual world, somebody needs to be a lighting designer on that set. And the artists who are creating the virtual sets, they aren't lighting designers. And a lot of them don't have a grasp on what it is that we do to make that virtual set look real.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Listen, Dennis, a lot of this stuff, we normally get 20 minutes to get things done, don't we? These people get weeks and months and stuff like this. And actually, there's some amazing stuff out there. And I've worked with some of the best and greatest. And let's say, Mexico City now, they've got people who actually know what they're doing lighting wise. A lot of the great creative people who work with some of these, like Carol G at the moment is beautiful. Like you can name it, but that's the problem. And what Steve talked earlier on about, it's like anybody can touch it now, and they don't understand the reality of what there's that going to end up on. But also, we've got to deal with, also in the television world, is that the cameras seem to have picked up, and I've now, after all these years, are getting better. So when you look at one of those screens with that virtual lighting compared to real lighting, it's not the same. It just doesn't it doesn't have the organicness of it all. And but for Joe Soap sitting we're just geezers, right? And geezettes. But,
right. And because they're going to all look at it through their iPhone, like you said, they're reducing it to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, but when you see it, and it's great, which I've seen a lot, and you see, like, because all those award shows, which you've all done, you get people coming in, and there's people come in, and you're like, I remember the people come in, and you just go, wow, that is great. And it's like seeing a painting for the first time, because they've obviously understand shades and levels and stuff like that, which we all try to understand. But there's some people who I've seen, there's a guy called Rob Sinclair who does amazing work with David Byrne. I don't know if you've seen that. And he's done Madonna, he's done this now. First time I ever saw him, we were in the Royal Albert Hall, which we all know is this beautiful space, and he had like a Raggedy L white sheet, and a projector on the floor with this band. And I'm thinking, what is this going to be like? And I remember everyone come up to me and said, who did the lighting for that? And this is 1990 something or other. And it was just a joyful mix of a little projector, but it was all about the content, as you say. It's all about the quality. And basically, this was just a picture of a girl, and she was out of focus. And by the end of the song, her eyes came into focus, and it was clear. And I was like, wow. And it was very cheaply gone. This guy is one of the best lighting designers in the world now. But it's the eye, isn't it? And
sure. Well, I think that's what you have. You don't have the training.
Yeah.
You have something that God gave you, and it's in the eye.
Yeah.
Just like you said, you don't have any sort of musical experience or musical talent, yet your whole bread and butter is in the musical world.
Yeah. And I've been spoiled by the people I sitting in the rooms with some people, and you're watching. But you just, sometimes, but I've been lucky in the sense that I worked with real musicians, like real people who played instead of a lot of click tracks, which a lot of, like, obviously our skills and how we work, we go from doing how we got into the business and how we got into stuff to you go into television. And as I say, like all those award shows, we've got an hour and a half maybe, or if it's somebody crazy huge, you'll have 3 or 4 hours. Whereas if you were in the theater or another mode, you'd have a week, to get that right. But I think that's why people employ us now, is that, hey, he's got 3 hours, it'll look great with the team he has, And I think that's all down to having a great programmer, working with a good set designer, and just the cameras today are ridiculous, like ridiculous.
Yes, it is quite interesting. The technology is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
How did you actually, you started out doing, pushing boxes at 13. How did you transition into the world of television and broadcast in Ireland?
As I said, you work in lots of different things. And one of the guys I worked with was a really good film, like TV, Fresnel, And I just, picked it up. But how I really got into it is the manager of Eric Clapton in 1989, 90 said, Tom, I am so fed up of X, this person and that person coming over. You better learn how to do television in 1991, 92. And I was fortunate, people like Alan Bratton and Bobby Dickinson and people like that, because I'd come over here with an artist and I'd be in London with some great British older lighting designers. And I just learned and I just, picked it up and knew that, again, your team, a good gaffer, great person with the fall spots, a person the color correct, and basically you're communicating again. You know what I mean? It's going from this
Sure.
big picture to this little picture. And like you saw, listen, Dennis, we did that Elton John thing where you came in the morning. It was like 4 a.m. And we were on air by 6 o'clock, and it was great. And what's funny is that we had done a DVD the day before with all this stuff, and the management loved what we had done in that time more than some of the stuff they'd done the day before. Because it was,
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that
was
fun?
a fun show. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was Leon Russell and Elton John.
And
in the
Elton
Beacon.
John, yeah.
In the Beacon.
Was it the Beacon?
That's
Yeah,
The
cool.
Beacon?
Yeah, the Beacon, yeah. But it was one of those, it's all about speed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's, unfortunately you complain about not having enough time, but we're sort of used to it now. But I think once you got that base look in lighting, once you've got the base look, it's like, as you say, baking a cake, Steve. Once you got that, where it's just all about all the little other ingredients that you can put in and to make it better and make it, more lush or more, elegant.
So you learned your trade
Yeah.
and worked your way up in Ireland.
Yeah.
Then you came here, and
Yeah, I went to England
Florida
first.
based.
London.
I went to England first. Went to London first at a time when it was huge Michael Jackson shows, huge Dire Straits shows, huge, and the world was moving into moving lights. I was working with a lot of really great lighting designers, but what really helped me is that I started working with David Byrne after he worked with Talking Heads. I did his first solo tour.
Ah, great.
And I learned a lot from him, and I also learned a lot from Barbara Ling, who was his production designer, who went on to do so many great movies. But it's just picking up, even in an hour's conversation of being around people. So I went to London, did all that, and then eventually was doing so much stuff here that I came here.
Is there a noticeable difference? I mean, I know there was years ago, and I'm reminded of the lighting designer David Hersey, who did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, David, yeah.
He was American,
Yeah,
but couldn't find work here, went to London,
Yeah.
and became a
did
star.
really well. A star, yeah.
At that time, back in the 70s and 80s, there was a definite European approach versus an American approach.
Yeah.
Does that still exist?
It does, yeah, definitely. It does. You are right. I think it's the cool.
I mean, I don't know what it is. I just
no, you are right.
I see Tom Sutherland come over
Yeah.
and do something, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wonder,
Yeah.
Or as you were saying, Bob Dickinson would go over there and do something, and it's interesting
Yeah,
the
and
way
Alan would
producers.
come over, and it's funny because they used to go, "The Yanks are coming," You'd build up this, and then they turn out to be the greatest people, and you'd learn an awful lot. But it's funny, they'd say the Yanks are coming for a big production.
That's funny.
And we had myself and Alan Brown had some funny stuff we did. I remember we were doing this huge show. Actually, it won a lot of awards. It was for Gloria Estefan, and the local vendor in Holland or in Netherlands where we were, was so amazed. He's working with Alan Bratton that he wouldn't leave him alone, right? And Alan, had been the cool, very quiet man, eventually turns to me and says, "Tom, your job is to keep that guy away from me." And it had nothing to do. And at the same time, we just turned up to do this huge Gloria Estefan video for Disney. And the guy who she had as her lighting guy, can't remember, he was a great guy, but he was very paranoid, and obviously he'd gotten into lots of trouble. All of a sudden, these two guys, me and Alan, who were having a bit of a laugh and getting it done and whatever, he starts getting paranoid, and it comes up to me just before show. He said, "You're not here to take my job." And I went, "No, I'm only here with him for 3 days." Oh, and it's funny how in lighting, there's all these little dramas going on. We could make our own reality shows, but it was just a different levels of confidence where we were just thrown into a show. We'd seen it a couple of days before, and that's what I think it's learning what's important for the person, for the Beyoncés and the glory, not so much glory, but Beyonce's people. It's all about how the face looks. Obviously, the cues are amazing and all that stuff. Different people want different things. I think it's like in every job, you learn what the client wants, and the fact that we get the biggest compliment is when a producer says, I never have to worry about you guys. I know it's taken care of, which is great.
The best thing you could hear.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. So, and that's confidence, and it's great, but
I can't get the image of you and Alan working together.
Oh, it's funny. He actually, when he was getting some big award, he invited me and Willie Williams. And he said, the first time I ever met you, Tom, I didn't like you. In Alan's funny way. But, listen, everybody's different in ways. I remember somebody saying about Bobby, and I worked with Bobby a few times. I'm like, that's different to what he's like, what that guy said. It's funny what people have. It's what people, it's like any human source where we just happen to be, it's a stupid business when you think of it. We turn on something and this energy comes out and people see.
And an emotional reaction takes place.
Right.
So it's you can see, and I've again been lucky to work with some of the best creators and some of the best sound engineers, and you can see it's all in there. Same with actors, the same with directors. I work with all the best directors, and I could name drop all day, but I've been around them all. And
but every one of them is unique in their own way. I mean, look at yourself.
Yeah.
Everybody loves working with you because you're such a great guy. But you're self-described, as you call yourself, a cheeky bastard.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
but I was when I grew up though, so I went from Ireland was like we're just getting on, getting jobs. We had a laugh, and I could write a book about that. But then you go to England, and I'm like, oh, this Irish guy is coming over here, right? To England, and normally the Irish in England, we go and do all the hard work, like Italians and Irish and Germans, and everybody came over here. So it was funny, but I was lucky because a lot of people were busy at the time in London when I went there first. So I was fortunate to be seen by a couple of big promoters. And I remember this guy said, hey, Tom, can you be in an office tomorrow at 2:00? I need to talk to you about something. I went in, and it was the guy who did Live Aid, Harvey Goldsmith. He said, listen, I've been friends with Eric Clapton for years, Tom, and you have to be his lighting guy. You've got to be his lighting guy. He needs somebody to look after him. And that was in 1988 or 89. And first places I went to, and I was surrounded. I was 20 something and everybody else was 40 something. And the whole time I'm going, God, wow, everybody's old here. You know what I mean? And I was like the cheeky bastard having a laugh, but whatever, they liked it and move it. Then you go into, when you join a club like that, you're into another club. You meet the Phil Collinses, the George Harrisons, all that stuff at that level, and then you meet the David Bowies or whatever. Today, there's so many artists. I don't know how people keep up with it, But I think it's just being as nice as you can be, as funny, as nice and organized, and then a fall spot blacks out and you freak out. You know what I mean,
Right.
Dennis? So you can be the coolest person. Or it's like you see it, even the best shows in the world, that little spot bumps off, and you're like, hey, it's not anybody's fault. He was probably taking his phone out, but you go nuts at the time, But
we're all basically adrenaline junkies on all of this.
Yeah.
But let's face it, and it's obvious. Anybody who's worked with you knows that you're just so passionate about the work and about the end result. What is it in your heart of hearts that you enjoy most about this?
I think enjoy most about it is that it's like going to war, which sadly we're going through a lot of that, but you've got 3 months of hanging around and then 2 minutes of hell. And I just think that a reaction when it goes wrong, and I've got lots of programmers and people who go, oh, yeah, I've seen you. But you know what I mean? It's like, I just like making everybody happy, and then sadly we don't get enough time to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Because it's like everything's like that now. You know what I mean? Even all those massive shows that are out there, it's like 10 minutes, 12 minutes. And then you see some of the stuff, lighting that's happening around the world, and it's amazing. I think it's just enjoying the process, enjoying people. when you're around the right people, and we've been around the right people, it's just fantastic, and it works out. You know, it's like just a great mixture of people, and we're very lucky that we have that. You know.
Tom, have you worked at or seen shows at the Sphere yet in Vegas?
Yeah, I did. I was fortunate to go to the U2 after, and I knew a lot because I'm friends with them still, and Willie's friends, and all the guys are friends. And I went to their first. I was originally involved with it, with the building of it. MSG and Radio City asked me and Dave Natal, who's the Rolling Stones sound engineer, and me to be consultants, and we worked on it. So I knew a little bit about it. Then COVID came, and then I went to U2, was blown away. And then I did the NHL did their draft there.
Okay.
And and the strictness is crazy, Alan. Like nobody tells you that it's like a Starbucks without coffee, right? That's my thing. Because you have to bring everything in, right? It's got a beautiful lighting system now. It's got amazing video, but you've got to bring the personnel in. There are people there, but you got to be, so you see some of the stuff that's going on. It's just ridiculous. But it's, you know what's funny though? After like 2 days, you're like, okay, let's look at this. Well, okay. It's like sadly, it's like everywhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's really like
Just another school play.
yeah. But it's amazing what people are doing and what people are achieving in there.
Yeah, I think I saw you too
Yeah.
there and was blown away. And I think they really set the bar really high.
Oh God,
It's
yeah.
just
But
amazing what they did
they
in there.
spent a fortune though. You know, they spent because they were the first. They've always been that people that will. And you know what the thing is, the four members of U2 decide on everything. You know, which is so it's a group of people. So the same with other friends of mine who've gone in there. The Zach Brown stuff that was in there was amazing with Mark Butts, and then again Kenny Chesney's. I don't know if you saw that one.
No.
They spent a lot of money on the opening video, like beyond what we'd ever have for a whole year of lighting. So it's created a lot of great, amazing stuff. But it's sort of got to a point that everybody's trying to top each other. I don't know. It'd be hard if you were a band that didn't have very much money because you need to. The original idea was they were going to have a library of stuff like we used to have, like gobos, but footage. I don't know if they've got to that point now. That if you didn't have all that money in the world, but everything
Or you
is
could
ridiculous.
use their stock footage.
Yeah, but I don't think it's that way. With the NHL draft, where we did the first ever live TV broadcast in there, and the funniest thing in the world, Alan, but the most difficult thing was a microphone with one man talking in the middle of that room was difficult. With all that technology and all that, because they've got all the speakers and they've got all the stuff, and there's so many magnets and stuff. And it's amazing that you'd think like not everything's perfect, but it's just to try and do a one-man microphone in there is really difficult.
Is all of that money that gets spent on those projects actually worth it? I mean, is there a payoff?
I think now with bands, it's amazing to see what all the stuff we've seen has been amazing, and a lot of people I know work. There is a payoff because now they originally were supposed to have one in London, which I was going to work on as well, and that got fallen through. I think. Well, let's see if Abu Dhabi is still around, but they're going to do one in Abu Dhabi and places like that. So the fact is that you have your program, and you can go to the next place, but they haven't built them yet. You know what I mean? That was the plan.
I heard there was talk of building one in New Jersey or somewhere in the metropolitan area.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get behind Madison Square Gardens and whatever, way off in the background to the west. They were trying to get somewhere there. Maybe it was.
Oh, in the train yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. The thing is, though, and why London went down is because it's the amount of lumens that comes out the outside. There's so much light. Where in Vegas, you can get away with it. There's so much light, and it's also a big investment. And, U2, again, we go back to them. They were like the guinea pigs, and they went, we're going to do it. Alan, you saw it.
It was amazing.
And they could write a book. Willie and everybody that did it, fantastic work.
Yeah. Willie is really funny, too, because there's a bird flying around in there, and he says every night somebody calls management and says there's a bird flying around in there. And, of course, it's on the video.
With or without you, yeah. Yeah, it's funny, but to think like again, our business, you can actually that one band you can say, went from having 12 park cans to what they're doing now. And that's the way our business has gone since I've been around, since 1979 or 80 or whatever, since I was aware of it. And it really has. And then I worked with a lot of people that worked with the Stones and all that stuff, from Shokos and all those things, and they building their own park cans and all that stuff. It's a funny business that we're in, that it goes like from that to that. And then you meet people that don't know anything about that. They went to college, but they don't know anything about how it started, And that's where we're fortunate.
Yes, we are.
We're
We
very
are.
fortunate, in a sense. And I think the fact that you may never meet people, but you know their jobs and you know their work and you know how cool or whatever, And yeah, yeah. And I've been lucky to be around so many great bands and so many great artists, and yeah, I've been really fortunate. Is the
Of
way.
all the wonderful projects that you've done in your storied career, do you have one that stands out as being a favorite or something that you're most proud of?
Well, every year there's always something, Dennis. I just did a show last year in the middle of the jungle, or in the middle of the Amazon, for Global Citizen. And it was in the middle of the Amazon. It was there was a big, huge climate conference going on, and Stu Fish, who do the Stones and U2's set, we all talked, and they made a set out of bamboo at the size of U2's stage or the Stones stage, and it was a real set to light. So that was one of the last. Every job you do is great. That, and then I remember a big Robert Plant and Jimmy Page show in Mexico City, where the band finished and the house lights came on, and I had a feeling that they're going to come back, and I could see from the lighting desk, and they're going off, and the torches and all this, and everybody's packing up. I went, no, 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 don't go, don't go, don't go. And then the band came on, and the production manager, Roy Lamb, who used to be a lighting guy, goes, Tom, when do you want me to do the house lights? And I went, wait, 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 wait. And Jimmy Page hit the guitar, and I blacked out the house lights, and the place went up 3 feet. Everybody elevated, things like that. And then I did a show in Africa where my headset went down, and the crowd passed my headset from the front of the stage to the lighting desk. Seriously, can you imagine?
It's those moments and those stories that we remember the most.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, there's many stuff like that, but whatever. We're very lucky. We got lovely people around. It's funny, you were talking about LDI and all that stuff, Alan.
Yeah.
I've only been a few times, and one of the best times was Susan Tesh. So I knew I was busy and said, you want to come down the day before? And then on the day before I went in, which was fantastic, because
Right.
people were just in the middle of they were still human beings. They hadn't been pulled apart by everybody. But it was
Right.
it was like going to a tech
Yeah.
rehearsal. And I hardly ever go to those things, because I'm fortunate that other LDs are the great vendors that we all have. We didn't have these vendors when we were all growing up. These great vendors now will go, hey, I've got this new light. Because I've always been one to, hey, give me a few of those lights and I'll use it on this show. And we'll demo it and we'll have the best programmers. So I've always been looking at, but when you think of all those manufacturers that at your shows, there was a little booth this one year, and then the following couple of years, the booth is huge. I could name Elations and the Robies and it's amazing how our business has gone that way, which is great. It's fantastic. But you dream of things like this. There was a place which is a boxing stadium, and they were all in Dublin, National Boxing Stadium, and there was actually a boxing ring, and they were really miserable, really old geezers that ran the place. And everybody played there, Dire Straits, Eric Clapton, U2, everybody. Was a real low roof. And they asked me this is 1981, they asked me to do their Christmas show. Like I was 17 or something like that. And the man who was the grumpiest man in the world, who was the caretaker, goes, Tom, we've got some lights. And this is 81, 82. Like, remember that timeline? He brought me back, and he opened up, and there's a VL1 sitting there. And I said, there's only about 30 of them in the world. He says, that American guy was a pain in the ass. So he left it behind. I never told him. So But there was a couple of power cans of VO, and I was thinking, oh my God, can you imagine the trouble those poor guys got into? And they're probably still to this. Actually, I'm hoping one of them is listening now and knows where that VL1 went to.
You might get a phone call, Tom.
That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, we're lucky like that. But I think I've always liked adventure, Dennis. And like you, I see where you're in, and you're in the most corporate craziness, dealing with all sorts of stuff. But it's still, at the end of the day, the lights look good.
Well, that's what we do.
That's what we do, and we're fortunate that way. I remember Elton John saying to me, here's another thing, Dennis, in your world. He said, Tom, I was doing Spectacle, this great show for Elvis Costello and Elton John. We did it in studio. We did it in the SNL studios, and then we did it in the Apollo. And Elton John said, Tom, in lighting in those studios, why do they have so many lights? Why is there so many lights? And I said, no, it's probably because they don't have time. And somebody shouted up, no, it's all about money, Tom. It's got nothing about lighting. And he went, what do you mean money? I went, oh, too long to understand. But yeah, but that studio, when you never think of that an artist would go, why is all those lights there? But you obviously plan it because you have no time. But it's also a great business,
You probably know Jeff Amaral, who's the lighting designer.
Oh, I love Jeff. Now, speaking of a great thing, I was fortunate to have I did the Taylor Swift 10-minute song there a few years ago, and it was amazing, but we couldn't see because she is amazing, and anyone that works with her will tell you that, and they're very secretive and great people, but we couldn't really show it to anybody. So I had Jeff in the corner, and he'll tell you, and the guys, and I'd have to go, okay, we'll look at the color, and we'd go. Anyway, they were so great in that audience, and they really liked us, or in that room, that they were, it's moving all this stuff. It's crazy. You cannot explain it to anybody. And they said to me, hey, Tom, we've got 20 minutes we've saved. Do you want to do something? And we managed to get her out. We got everybody out. And he gave us, and the team gave us an extra 20 minutes on this show. It was a 10-minute piece, so it needed that. And we decided the art is going to be lighting. And if you ever watch it, it's fantastic. And of course, she's a genius. And but Jeff really helped us out there.
I'll have to bring it up. Jeff's going to be on this show in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, and we had so many lighting cues, and it didn't start. It started off as supposed to be one lighting cue, and ended up being, and they were absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Jeff is great. All that. There's a reason why they're all there. All the guys there, they're great people, and that's a world. You know what I mean? You could be passing by the studio, and you go, what goes on in there? And it's, you know what I mean? But they're also not as crazy. But there's some ones in London, and it's funny. The same thing. So let's say Jeff is the most nicest, decent man. It helps everybody. I knew the old guy that used to do it as well. I met him in the 80s. Who was the older lighting designer? What was that guy? Not Eugene, but
Phil Himes.
Phil. And I had some I had a couple of grumpy times with him, but being a cheeky bastard, I got away with it, But then it's funny you say the difference between our UK, or how much I mean Europe and America. I remember going out. Bowie was amazing. He knew everything about lighting, like David Byrnewood or whatever. But he knew about cues and all this stuff. And I was doing this show called Michael Parkinson, and it was a very famous talk show. It's a fantastic show. It's like the Graham Norton, but not as crazy. But it's a really famous like Johnny Carson type show. And Bowie loved the strip light, for his chin.
Sure, the uplight.
The uplight. And we'd always ask for that in our sort of rider. And I remember I was sitting down, and the guy was really difficult, BBC guy. And I don't know what was going on in his life, but he was difficult. And just wasn't giving us enough time. And we were like, I said, I can't tell you enough how important this is to get this right. And he's like, oh, we'll be fine. Like, hear him, oh, Jenny, when are you going to meet? I'm like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, eventually the programmer could see I was under things. So we put the strip light out. I'm sort of sitting there, and it feels amazing. And the guy, Michael Parkinson, the host, comes down, and he sits beside me. I'm like, this is my dad's hero. Like anybody of my dad's age, this man, the interviewer. And he goes, hey, lad, what are you doing here? And I says, I'm here with David Bowie. I just, help him out. He's very aware of how stuff are. And I go in advance, and I check the lighting and make sure the cameras. And really? I says, yeah. And he says, oh, and he named a couple of really famous actors that had someone like me and a couple of people and he goes, what's that thing down there? And I said, that takes about 10 years off you, Mr. Parkinson. He went, I won't say the guy's name, but he shouted at the LD, why don't I not have one of those? So I never fuck with the Irish is the end of the thing. But it was funny, all because, he'd be, the strip light. But it's funny, the minute people see it, it's like a cuckoo, I think, or a magpie. When an artist sees that light, like the Robert Juliet ones, have you seen those ones? The beautiful Robert Juliet footlights. Have you seen them, Ellen?
No, I
The
haven't
LED
seen
with
them.
the LEDs, yeah.
Yeah. Have you, Dennis? You got to see them. They are unbelievable. And I was working with on one of the Latin Grammys, and Ricky Martin goes, "What is that?" I said, "That is this new French thing." He went, "Oh my God, I can feel it." And it's an LED strip light, and they're like this now. I use them as much as you can. Robert Juliet, amazing thing. Of course, the French, they get that right. But it's and then a couple of other artists, famous ladies, have gone, "What is that?" You know what I mean? And it's funny, they
Wow.
know.
Yeah, of course they
you
did.
know.
Of course, and most of them, and those that have been around a while,
Yeah.
if they come and they don't see their uplight, oh my God, there's hell
Jesus,
to
we've
pay.
been there, yeah. Or the camera light. Well, yeah, we've all that. We could all talk about that. But
It's funny.
hey, listen, it's great that they're into that. There's a couple
Sure.
of. It's great that they know what's important. I was fortunate to work with lots of great people. I remember Iman, David's wife, saying, "You know what I do, Tom? I sit in the darkest part of the restaurant." Says, "Why? A, nobody hassles you, and B, you can just be yourself." And there's a woman that has been photographed 1,000,000 times, and it's funny how people would take that into, and obviously different ladies and different men. It's all about their face and how they look. Other people, it's all about how the whole stage looks. And
Sure.
other people, they go, "Okay, how you doing, lighting? Okay, sound." You know what I mean? I love those people. And you know what? At the end of all this, there's nothing like a bit of feedback to get you out of trouble.
That's right.
Because I think they're starting to come towards you to talk about lighting, and then hang on, and they've forgotten about it.
The minute there's an audio problem, I turn to my program and say, "Thank God,
Yeah,
now
yeah.
we won't be on the
Oh
table."
yeah,
Right.
yeah. No,
Well,
we've
let me throw the last question at you for
Yeah.
the day. A couple times I have listened to you, and I think it's 3 times, you have said, "I have been lucky."
yeah.
I think you've made your own luck.
Yeah.
So if you
The
were
luck of the
advising,
Irish.
Look.
you were advising someone young coming up in the business, how do they make their own luck?
Right.
Yeah. How they make their own look. Be a good person, start with. Be informative. Communicate well. Be informed, communicate well, be enthusiastic, because we meet people that are just they're not happy, and you would love to go, you should take another job, you know what I mean? And it's just, you know what I mean? And they come in, they're so stressed. Now we all get stressed, and we know what it's like, and if it isn't going well, you're like, "Oh my God," but normally it comes to fruition, or sometimes it doesn't. But I think patience, which I've never learned, even though we've been doing it a long time. I think just being a good communicator and realizing that everybody here has a part to play in making sure that light comes on and this comes on and this works. And, and of course, you can't explain the amount of times people have turned on the house lights when you're just about ready to do stuff. I think it's just expect the unexpected, Steve, I think. And if you could take that, you know what I mean? And even listen, in the biggest, most amazing things in the world, something will happen and you're like, "Oh my God," you know what I mean? And it's in those times that you really have to think about it, But yeah, just if you're a nice person and try and make fun out of it, because at the end of the day, and a couple of rock stars have said this, Tom, at the end of the day, it's just a concert for everybody to relax in, It's a different world now to when we were growing up. There was only a few big people that could afford stuff, but nowadays it's crazy, ridiculous. I'm part of it because we had so many huge lighting rigs, and some of the shows that I did, I was fortunate to have great vendors that would help us. But you were talking about the 1,000 lights, Dennis, earlier on. We were in LA years ago doing the VMAs, and they don't like us East Coasters or us foreigners coming into their little stretch, And we had the A-listers, amazing people on the show, and somebody said, "How many lights did you have?" And we had actually 3,000 bulbs, right? Because we had lots of,
Set lights.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And anyway, does an MTV news come in? And Michael Pell will tell you this. And they want to interview me. And I had just bullshitted through my... Yeah. And I made it. It was 4,000 bulbs, right? And everybody had 4,000. Look, and I said, look, the Mulfey and that light has got 10 bulbs.
Mulfey's got 9
yeah,
lights
yeah,
in
9
it.
lights, right? And the next day, we had a couple of people down to have a look. It was funny. And I was like, oh my God, you got to be careful what you say. But it was just a bit of laugh. You know what I mean? The fact that but I think people can do more with 4 lights than they can do it with 1,000 lights, So maybe that's what we always strive for, that nice slow song or that nice piece of music or the beginning or the end, or, it's like any movie or, I think that's, Steve, if you can figure out the magic and it'll all work out, I think that's the way to do it,
You clearly love what you do.
Yeah, no, I do love what I do. There were times I hate it because your hands are tied, but it's like everything else. Everybody goes through it. My daughter, who works in a big hospital, my friends who are architects, everybody goes through what we go through, except for we go through, and there's like a lot of people looking at it where, or you can really, I've lit some of the biggest disasters in the world. I've lit Kanye jumping up on Taylor Swift. I've lit all these things, and you think, Jesus, remember when that happened? And that's the funny thing you talk about. Or when people don't turn their microphone off, and you're in the really middle of a very important thing, and you have to be serious, and somebody left their microphone off. It's like having a mosquito in your bedroom. You know what I mean? And as long as they turn it off, But,
That's so funny.
Is there anything you haven't done that you would like to do? You want that phone to ring, and they're going to say,
yeah, I've been listen, I've done, I love when you can, did you see somebody I've lit Statue of Liberty. Did you see that the other day? Somebody lit the Statue of Liberty?
Yes, that was
EDM.
for the Liberty Special on July 4th.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, they did a nice job with that.
You see stuff, that museum in Egypt a couple of years ago. Did you see that, Dennis? The museum show?
No, I missed that.
Roland Greel and all these guys did it from Australia.
Yeah, the opening night of that.
Wasn't that incredible?
In Cairo, yeah.
That was incredible. There's stuff like that you still see, and you go, wow, those people are great. And unfortunately, because I travel, I get to meet people like that, and they did great work, and hopefully people still keep going to theaters and turning on stuff. And, I don't see, listen, what's great for me is I listen to European news. I don't listen to anything here. And with AI, which when everybody pushes, what I've realized, Alan and Steve and Dennis, really stupid people push AI a lot, right? I've noticed, I'm thinking, why is that guy saying AI is going to do it? And I think, because they don't have the capacity, you know what I mean? And I find...
Good point. Point.
People have a 23-year-old daughter, have a 35-year-old daughter, and they work in different things, but they're okay. My 23-year-old sees it a lot, but she's also realizing it's better to write a letter yourself. You know what I mean? It's pushing yourself. And I think we all grew up in you had to do it for yourself, and we had books and all this stuff. Whereas now people can, I saw this ad for somebody, you can take a photograph of a book and it reads it to you. It's crazy. So I'm sure it'll creep into our world a little bit. But I really don't know how it can, you know what I mean? How it's going to take away the human thing from lighting. You know what I mean? You're going to have somebody that's dealing, unless you can go, make this blue, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure we'll get to that point. But I think most of us will still have a job. You know what I mean?
Let's hope so.
I hope so.
I think you will.
Yeah.
And on that note,
good.
Thank you very much, Tom, for spending more than an hour with
this
us.
was
great. Thank you very much. And this is part 1. When are we doing part 2?
It depends on how the recording went today.
Okay, exactly. Okay.
I do, but I'm seriously, there needs to be a part 2.
Yeah, we
There are
should.
people that we have
Especially
on that
when we
have
get
to
onto
have a
the
part
AI
2.
topic.
Right.
Which is,
Yes.
Yeah. And listen, I'm sure lots of people have opinions of it, but I do find, and I don't, maybe you can ask, it's a couple of people, it's the world's going to change. I'm like, I'm sorry, but you're a pretty dumb person. You know what I mean? And now I've figured it out. You've told me you're dumb, right? Instead of somebody who's smart and writes a letter or writes this or sends a nice text, I don't know, there's something about it that it's going to take a while, but it's like the Y2K thing. Do you remember that?
oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I know AI is amazing, and there's an algorithm listening to all of us at the moment go, that fucking Irish guy, we can't have him. You know what I mean? Stop him. Well, whatever. But anyway, we're very
I do
lucky
have to
guys.
say that in the email that we all use for LDI is Outlook, and it has its own built-in AI companion now called Copilot. And for a long time, I didn't even look at it. And today I needed an image really quickly for some stage manager thing. And I just told it to, could you please make me an image of a stage manager with a headset on a stage? And the thing that came back was just perfect.
I know. Listen, friends of mine, in Ireland, there's a big sport called Gaelic football, which is football without the helmets and all. It's really fast. And there's a county in Ireland that won for the first time in 75 years, right? And big deal. And there was a curse. There's all sorts of crazy stuff about it. Whereas the last team that won in the 50s drove through a funeral and a priest cursed them, so they could never win again. There's all this stuff. So Ellen, a friend of mine, that's true, right? So a friend of mine today who manages a great band, which they've been using the song for every single thing. It's like that song, Congratulations. When Princess Diana walked out of the church, they put Congratulations on. A friend of mine wrote that. It was in the Congratulations, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he made £1 million that day, right?
Wow.
So this song has pushed U2 off the thing, and won by these two great Irish guys. And I'm hearing it all the time. But anyway, one of them said today they're going to call their tour, we're going to go to the Croak tour, right? So Ellen, in 5 minutes, I had 2 frogs, one with the guy's hair and one with the guy's thing, and within seconds, as you said,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. It's crazy.
It is amazing.
It is crazy.
So I agree with the people who say it's not going to take my job, but it's giving me a great new tool to put in my toolbox to do my job better.
No, you're
Or
right.
different.
Something like that is crazy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It's amazing.
Yeah, but you have worked with set designers that can draw something like that. That is amazing. And I remember
Right.
on a phone call a few years ago, before AI got involved, Anton Goss, who's a great guy, he exactly what the producer was saying, he was drawing it as we were going along. That was amazing. And stuff like
Anton
that.
is a brilliant
But
designer.
it's like the
Yeah.
lighting designers who said, "Oh, I will never ever use CAD automated
Yeah.
drawing.
Yeah.
Nobody will ever use that. Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
We'll always,
Yeah.
render by hand." Right. But like, who trained this Copilot thing? If you say, "Could you please draw me this?" and it does it, and then you say, "Thank you," and it says, "I'm glad you like it."
Yeah. Wow. Who trained it? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's a sixth sense,
That's
but
funny.
it is part of a thing. But yes, this is a joy to talk to everybody.
Well, thank
No, it
you
was
again,
great.
Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids tell us that once again, you've spent another Wednesday morning listening to Light Talk. You can hear our show on just about every podcast site out there. Check our website on lighttalk.org and our brand new Instagram site at Light Talk Podcast. Be sure to tell all of your friends. And Tom, please tell all your friends in Ireland as well.
I will.
Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our podcast. That way you will not miss a second of Light Talk insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you do decide to litigate, you will have to deal with me, Snoot from the Snoot Group. And don't get it twisted. Just because I married one of these losers does not mean I will go easy on you. So don't with me.
This week Light Talk came to you from the tropical paradise of St. Bart, the Lone Star State, the North Shore of Long Island, and Hollywood, Florida.
Be sure to join us next week when we dive into more lighting shenanigans and serve up a fresh, piping hot casserole of nonsense.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
Special thanks to Tom Kenny, our favorite cheeky bastard.
Yeah.
And we'll see everybody next Wednesday when we bring you a whole new casserole. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.